everyone, welcome to another episode of Basketballty Presents I'm Basketballty. On today's show, I'll be discussing the 5 coaches this coming NBA season who are on the hot seat. By hot seat, I mean getting the chop if their team doesn't perform to expectations. Some teams are in rebuilding mode and some are in win now mode, so disrupting team chemistry won't be an option. Starting off the list at number 5 is Dwayne Casey of the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Toronto Raptors are an interesting team, and not in either a good way or a bad way. They're not in rebuilding/lottery mode, yet they're not a team that I'd consider to be true title contenders in any sense of the word. They play in arguably the worst division in the NBA, being the Atlantic Division, but that could change over the coming seasons with New York, Boston and Philadelphia. Toronto's yet to win a playoff series despite 2 division crowns, and considering how they got swept by the Washington Wizards last NBA season, I expect pressure on Dwayne Casey to win a playoff series this season or else. No ifs, no buts. For me, the problem with Toronto is they play way soft, with Jonas Valanciunas being a prime example of a player who needs to and has not taken the leap from being a solid NBA player to being a star. Number 4, Randy Wittman of the Washington Wizards. Yes, they've won 2 playoff series in the last 2 seasons and won 46 games last season, and that's the most that they've won for the last 35 years. I can't help but think though that Randy Wittman is not the right coach to take this Wizards team to being a true title contender. Paul Pierce may be at the end of his career rather than at the start, but I do believe that he'll be a big loss for this Wizards team. I think if NBA teams want to truly show they are contenders to win an NBA title, then 50 wins over the course of an NBA regular season is the minimum a team needs to get, and I don't think Wittman is the coach to get them to 50 wins. Huge pressure will be on Otto Porter to produce now that the truth's gone to the Clippers, and I expect Wittman to get the Doug Collins treatment in 1989 if the Wizards do not get an increase in wins this coming season. Number 3, Flip Saunders of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, these days it seems like Prince and the Walsh twins from Beverly Hills 902 are now been the only good thing to come out of Minneapolis in the last generation. Yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves are in rebuilding mode for the future, but ever since they traded Kevin Garnett in 2007 to the Celtics, that is all this team seems to be able to do. You know, I could spend a good 2 hours talking about all the stupid moves this franchise has made since drafting Kevin Garnett back in 1995. You know, now KG's back, but unfortunately for Minnesota fans, this is not the KG that won MVP honors in 2004. And at 2 years, $16 million, that contract is unjustifiable. Flip Saunders is the man and coach mostly accountable for this, and I do think in retrospect with Kevin Love, they could have gotten more young assets in return, even if Andrew Wiggins looks like a budding young star. There comes a time where coaches who are in charge of the front office as well need to choose one role over the other, and I don't think Flip Saunders should be the man in charge of this ongoing rebuild. Expect Saunders to get the tap on the shoulder from owner Glenn Taylor at some point in time this coming season to relinquish his position. Number 2, Billy Donovan of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, he has a great pedigree from his days as both an assistant and head coach in college with amazing programs like Kentucky and Florida. Let's face the fact though, track records for college coaches doing well in the NBA, it's not great at all. John Calipari and Rick Pitino are some of the coaches who had great college coaching careers who coached in the NBA, only to fail dismally with New Jersey, New York, and Boston respectively. The main reason I think that Donovan has even bigger shoes to fill compared to Calipari and Pitino is because Billy Donovan is walking into a team expected to contend for an NBA championship. Anything less than a Western Conference semi-final appearance will be a major disappointment for this Thunder squad. I personally believe if the Thunder do not perform to expectations, We could be seeing another LeBron James 2010 moment with Kevin Durant, and that could be the beginning of the end for Coach Billy Donovan. Number 1, George Karl of the Sacramento Kings, not Queens. Does anyone know what's going on with this franchise? Vlade Divac, you're a great player for Sacramento. You have an awesome beard that I love to emulate. And I'm sure we could have a nice meal with some rakia, sarma, cevapcici, and punina paprika. But you've got no NBA front office experience whatsoever. How DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo are going to mess with Coach George Karl is anyone's guess. And you know what? This is a franchise that mortgaged its future with the Philadelphia trade with Nick Stauskas. They've lost the rights in theory to control their own draft picks for the next 3 seasons. Ultimately, with this dangerous chemical reaction that is the state capital of California, someone will be held accountable, and that someone will probably be Coach George Karl. Anyways, that's it for another episode of Basketbaldy Presents. I'm Basketbaldy. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Basketbaldy Presents. If you did, give me a thumbs up below and subscribe to my weekly videos.